A dark story to report on today on TYT Sports. An Islamic State terrorist group has, armed with AK-47s, attacked the headquarters of a Real Madrid supporters club in Iraq. And they basically said in this Mirror article, because they don't like football. 3 gunmen opened fire around midnight at the Al Farhat café in Balad, 50 miles north of the Iraqi capital. And it is believed that at least 16 people, mainly Real Madrid fans, but also café staff, were killed and more than 20 people injured. Disgusting story to have to report on, but as we said, that is the dark side of being involved in media. You have to report on this, and it is not the first attack we've seen on world football, and it will not be the last. This is not coincidental. They are these horrible human beings, evil human beings, are deliberately attacking football because they may be all these negative things and these derogatory terms, but they are smart in terms of the way that they want to install fear. They understand that the Euros, which everyone should be aware of, and Copa America major tournaments are happening this summer. It wasn't a coincidence that a stadium was hit in Paris, just as preparations are ongoing for the Euros. We talked about this before, in measures to try and at least be aware or prepare for potential attacks to happen, not to install fear, but just to be ahead of the game in a certain way of speech. But the La Liga has responded. They sent out, the Real Madrid, first of all, sorry, we'll get to La Liga, but Real Madrid responded with an official statement which stated, Real Madrid deeply regrets the terrible attack in Iraq, which saw today 16 members of Real Madrid's supporters club lose their lives and which also left over 20 injured. The club expresses its great sadness and offers its regards and condolences to the families and friends of the victims. Real Madrid extends all of its solidarity to the people of Iraq who suffer the excessive injustices of extreme violence. The Real Madrid players will tomorrow wear symbolic black armbands as a sign of their mourning and respect. Football and sport shall always be spaces in which to come together and in which harmony and peace reign, and with no form of barbaric terrorism will be able to compete. And this was followed up by Sergio Ramos' tweet, Real Madrid player. Today, Madrissimo across the whole world cries for its supporters who shall never be forgotten. Rest in peace. And La Liga sent out a tweet as well. So the response, of course, in dark times is to try and bind together and show that world football, the world in general, remains, I would say, strong through these acts of terror. But it is tough, and it is far too often that we have to report on this, Jay.
Yeah, I chose sports because you get to escape from the devastating world news. I mean, look, there was a time where a couple news networks in the early 2000s tried to do happy news for a week. Ratings plummeted, and they didn't have any sponsors. And unfortunately, these kind of headlines, these kind of stories are the ones that, get the nation's attention. And the worst part about it is it gets not just our nation's attention, but the world's attention. They attack innocent football fans and innocent bystanders who just happen to be getting, I think it was a cafe, a bite to eat or a drink in a bloodbath. And the video is disturbing. I have to warn you of that. The pictures are disturbing, and I want to warn you of that too. And also, like at the bottom of the Telegraph article that I was reading this morning, 94 people were killed in 3 suicide attacks in Baghdad on Wednesday, which is the deadliest day in the Iraqi capital this year. It's May. It's 94 people gone like that. And look, you made the point that they're trying to instill fear. And it's been such an ongoing routine. First, at least sports related. First, the attack on Paris. Now, innocent football fans. And unfortunately, no one knows if there's an end in sight. And it's not to scare anybody. It's just a matter of that this is a realization that, A, we're extremely lucky people because we live in a country where at least every day when we go to the cafes and we go to get our coffees, we're hoping there's no terrorist attack. But the reality is, in many of the places like that in the area of Baghdad and Iraq and Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia and areas, people can't even get a bite to eat without the fear of getting blown up. And that's what's so sad about it, at least to me. And I think it's great what Sergio Ramos said. I think it's fantastic what Real Madrid said. I think it's great that they honor these people. And that they won't be forgotten with the black armbands. But you gotta, rise up, grow stronger, and don't be afraid. And this is actually similar to when it happens in Paris, because it's such a big capital place that for places like Baghdad, for cafes there, this is a weekly occurrence. Mm-hmm. This is another Tuesday. This is another Friday afternoon. This is another Thursday evening at a cafe. in Baghdad, that this happens so regularly that it is scary. And I know that's just the reality of it, and it sucks.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word, it just sucks.
Yeah. When you're praying for these Real Madrid supporters, pray for all of the people in Baghdad as well who have to face this as a regular occurrence. And it sickens me because, as you said, football is an escape for many people. And these terrorists are trying to make it not an escape. They're trying to make it a specific area in which they can drive forward their message. Hence why they've done it in Paris. Hence why football games now have major precautions, which will hinder the free-flowing mentality of going to these games. But that doesn't fucking matter. You should expect when you go to the Euros to take every single safety precaution and do not even bat your eyelid, because that is what has to be done. That is what has to be done to make sure that the game is safe. That's what has to be done to make sure that the people who are going to support their teams are safe. And that's just what is now. That is normality because of these hideous acts. They're going to cause this to be a normality. But enjoy the game nonetheless. Enjoy all the goodness that this sport provides, the strength, the togetherness, the passion, all of the things that these horrible, horrible imbeciles can never even gain any sort of that sentiment. They can never get any of that. That's why they're doing these horrible acts, to try and show people, well, we'll do this, so we're together on this act. No, you are alone in your evil. That is it. You are alone in your evil. And a sport like football, a sport like any, is to be an escape for people to go and just enjoy the good and the better things in life, rather than being so horrible in your actions that you try and drag everyone else down. So I just hope that that the competitions that we're looking forward to are not affected by this, but as a means to kind of end this clip, you are going to expect to take precautions. Expect to be aware. That's the only thing. Don't make it hinder. It's hard to even articulate, but don't let it hinder your enjoyment of the spectacle. But you have to be aware that maybe there's an exit over there, or maybe this might need to happen, and that is a harsh reality. But if it means you're safe and you get to enjoy the tournament, so be it.
To the spineless commenters who think that they're funny by saying they should have been Barcelona fans, you're equally as bad as the assholes who blew up the people in the first place.
Yeah, let's not
it's disgusting.
drag
And I hate that, like, the whole, like, oh, there's like the PC borderline and there's the freedom of speech. There is freedom of speech in this country, and I get that, and that's a wonderful facet of America that we take for granted a lot of the time. But when you sit there and you think that you're funny by putting people's deaths in your own comedic way, you're not. You're not funny. And unfortunately, just like the terrorist attacks that are trying to instill fear, those same commenters aren't going to stop. So what I would hope for is, if you see those comments on this clip, if you see those comments elsewhere, rally around them and make sure to call them out. Put them on blast. Screenshot it, put it on social media, and make sure they know that they're giant assholes.
Make sure to come back to TYT Sports. Hit that subscribe button. Goes a long way. Not the best story to report on today, but these things need to be reported on, and hopefully things will look up going towards the tournament, which will take place in the Euros. Our thoughts with all those involved. Come back again.